Air pollution is the single largest contributor to global warming. It comes from cars, buses, and other transportation, as well as factories, power plants, and anything that produces CO2. It worsens due to deforestation and fracking. Countries across the globe have environmental issues that contribute to air pollution. However, many countries have realized there is an issue, but few have made significant improvements. The United Nations has acknowledged this major issue and set an international goal for net zero emissions by 2050. Although this goal will not help to reverse air pollution or stop other climate issues like deforestation, it will prevent CO2 emissions from increasing, giving more time for other solutions to work. Norway has a reputation for clean air. Norway is one of the countries reducing air pollution the most and is the leading country in air pollution solutions within Europe. Norway's solutions include reducing the amount of cars on the road, specifically in cities, by providing more public transport. The government has set a goal to have fossil fuel free public transportation by 2025. Norway's UN sustainability goal is an extremely ambitious goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2030, and they seem well on their way to doing that.
Right. Hello. I am from Norway. Uh, I live in Lommedalen, outside of the capital, about 20 minutes, the capital of Oslo. And yeah, I have been asked to speak on this subject. I don't particularly notice the causes or effects of air pollution personally. I live mostly outside of the capital in an open area. It's very open and the air is very clean. So air pollution is not something I can say I notice a lot of. I have, however, heard that the air pollution in the city was actually pretty bad a couple of decades ago. Because of the amount of traffic going in and out of the city, there was also a lot of industry placed right in the harbour of Oslo. The city itself sits in a sort of cauldron, so a lot of the smog and the smoke and the heat got trapped down in there, which air polluted the city for a very long time and made it a bit unwelcome to pedestrians and the like. And that has changed in recent years, thankfully. As for climate change, I believe I don't see much of it. I fear I may be a bit too privileged to notice some of that stuff, unfortunately, and because of that, I'm a bit sheltered from some of these things. And it's possible that this is a case for quite a bit of eastern Norway. I would say they are doing quite a bit for global warming. Speaking specifically for the capital city of Oslo, I have noticed that they have attempted to get car traffic out of the city. As I mentioned earlier, there used to be industry right in the city itself, but that has all been moved. Instead of big shipping harbors, they're kind of just piers now. Similarly, in relatively recent years, I believe, they have added a toll booth system around the city, which has gone directly into funding things like bike paths. The fare zones themselves only apply to personal motorists, meaning they apply to car drivers, but they don't apply to bus drivers or subway trains or that kind of stuff. They have as well improved much of the public transport in the city as well. We have access to a metro system with 6 lines. We also have a tram system and a bus system. And if that's not enough, we also have electric scooters that can be rented right in the city itself, which, while it may not be the safest thing, it's a little easier than driving in with a car. In that case, it makes the city a lot more easy to travel for people by just hopping on a bus or a train, rather than driving in with a car and struggling to find parking. In addition to the vast transportation network of public transport, they've all been connected so you can use one ticket to travel across multiple systems. So you can use one ticket to travel both on a metro and a tram and a bus. Well, because of that, people are more willing to take public transport than to drive. And I think that's good. In addition, the government has subsidized electric car use to try and deal with air pollution. So it's much easier for people to buy electric cars in Norway. I have noticed that myself, as a larger number of Norwegians in general do own electric cars. while many people might be aware of it, I don't think we think of it that much, sadly, because, as aforementioned, it's a sort of privilege. We have an ability to sort of step out of that. We have the ability to sort of pretend like it doesn't exist because we live in Norway, we live in the global north, and well, we aren't affected by the effects of global warming in the same ways as other people, and climate change and air pollution and all that. And we do definitely talk about it. We try to do things about it. It doesn't come up that often, but in larger public conversations on television and the like and newspapers, I would think there's a lot of discussion about it.
However, climate change still has effects in Norway. Norway is warming, causing glacier melt and shifting precipitation patterns, especially in Norway's Arctic region. To move to a warmer region, Colombia has a major problem with air pollution. The level of air pollution is hurt further by their extreme deforestation and large amounts of fracking. Although a lot of air pollution comes from how they make power and from factories, transportation has a big impact as well. In cities like Bogota, the main form of public transportation is a massive bus system, but most people drive, causing massive amounts of CO2 emissions.
I'm going to give you my perspective about Colombia, what I have noticed, and kind of like my opinion. This is not like something really deep into the concept of climate change. So the biggest thing that I noticed in Colombia is the vehicle emissions and emission by factories and industrial facilities, independent of fossil fuels. And this is causing like poor air quality, which can lead to a lot of health problems in the people in Colombia. How much have you seen the effects of global warming, climate change, and air pollution in the past few years? Well, last year I went to Colombia. And I also went to vacation to Cartagena, Colombia, which is the coastal, like in the north of Colombia. I went to the beach. And I went to an area that I used to go every year on vacation, and the beach was gone. And I was like, what is going on? So a lot of erosion because the sea level is going, how would you say, like going up, it's rising. So it's causing a lot of erosion, and it was like a lot of construction because the government is trying to mitigate those effects. So it was like really sad to see that places that you used to go all the time. The droughts are becoming like really longer and severe. In Colombia, we have like rainy season and we have the dry season. So this year particularly have been very bad with the dry season and the droughts, and we have seen a lot of wildfires. And it's also affecting, like, we know that our energy is from, how we were discussing that, like hydropower. So now we are having a big problems, and actually in Bogota, Colombia, they are cutting the energy to the people, like because of the drought. So we don't have enough water. So it's really affecting our country like very bad this year, particularly. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, had pledged to promote it like renewable energy over fossil fuels, but to be honest, like this is very ambitious because our economy depends heavily on fossil fuels. Those are our main exports, like oil and coal. So I don't know how is that possible. I know it will take many years, maybe 20 years or 30, but there is a lot of resistance in Colombia because what the president has said. So let's see.
The United States has considerably worse air quality compared to Norway. The main cause of air pollution is production plants. This means things like factories, oil rigging, and power plants that burn fossil fuels to produce electricity, causing massive amounts of CO2 emissions. The United States has very little public transportation outside of large cities, with buses in smaller cities. All of that produces air pollution. There are some solutions, but for the most part, the US government has done very little to reduce air pollution. Solutions may include city projects to plant trees and state parks. Within the US, nonprofit organizations make the most impact. Collectively, they spend about $9 billion a year to plant trees and provide sustainable energy sources like solar panels and wind turbines. Many of these nonprofits work within cities to plant trees and support local projects that benefit the environment. These efforts have already stopped increasing yearly emissions, but we still need to bring the air pollution level down to make any impact.
No, I mean, occasionally from cars, but I don't see it so much from cars or factories because the EPA has been getting stricter about those regulations on emissions in general. How have you seen the effects of global warming, climate change, and air pollution in the past few years? Again, like anecdotally, that's hard to say because, it's just my memory of what the climate and weather has been. But overall, I think it's been most noticeable that we haven't had as harsh of winters. And with that, we have to treat our pets with flea and tick medication now year round because those insects aren't freezing. We haven't had as many snow days. Would you say our government is doing a lot for global warming and air pollution? And that's a complex issue. It's been since 1990 since we've been trying to get some type of climate change legislation on the books, and it hasn't happened yet. So I think that people need to make their own choices and individually reduce their impact on the environment because I'm not sure if it's going to happen anytime soon. In day-to-day life, do I see or use any solutions to reduce air pollution? One of the biggest air pollutants is how we get our electricity. And so for me personally, I choose sustainable energy as my provider when I choose my electricity. I also try not to use as many fossil fuels. I tell my students, make little changes. Don't leave that charger plugged into the wall. Pull it out. Electricity is one of our primary sources of air pollution. And so pull that charger out of the wall. Make little choices that will reduce your carbon footprint. If you choose little things like that could make a big difference if a lot of people do it. The air pollution is accelerated or reduced in the past 10 years. That's a tricky question because we know that carbon dioxide and methane levels are going up. So I would say those are increasing, the greenhouse gases. But we've also done a really good job regulating other gases in the atmosphere, like our nitrous oxides and our sulfur dioxides, which lead to acid rain. We have also reduced the use of chlorofluorocarbons in the atmosphere, and so that's been really good for air quality. And so there's some successes, some are going down, but then you have others that are going up. And so how we make electricity is using fossil fuels, burning coal, and coal is super dirty for the environment.
These nations acknowledge the urgency of addressing air pollution to safeguard public health and the environment. Colombia and Norway's solutions have a lot of government help compared to America, where their government does very little, and it is up to individual companies to improve their emissions. Overall, all three are making strides towards their goals. Colombia has the largest concentration of electric buses in the world, and yet their output still increases. America's level of air pollution has stopped increasing, but is not decreasing significantly. However, Norway's output of air pollution has not only stopped increasing, but has decreased drastically over the past 20 years. Through concentrated efforts and collaboration, progress is being made towards achieving cleaner air for present and future generations. But
I personally am not sure I could think of particular solutions, but what I do think is that one of the better solutions is to let more people get their ideas out there. And so the more ideas you can get out there, it enables more rapid progress. So to try and explain that without waffling so much about it, I basically think we should have more people be allowed to work on climate change. We should allow more people into the discussion.
And I think that we have our own obligation to take something like this into our own hands and do things in our everyday lives make little changes, because if enough of us do that, then that'll make a big difference in the world.
And that's all I have to say on the matter.